Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's expert webinar titled Overview of AnyPoint Platform. I am Satyakshi from Spring People. We are India's largest enterprise training provider. Our expert Siva Prasad Vallaru has a plethora of certifications under his belt, including MuleSoft, Pivotal Certified Enterprise Integration Specialist, and Adobe Certified Expert in Flex 4.5. Siva has 15 plus years of solid working and training experience and has previously worked for Motorola, Alcatel-Lucent, and Mahindra British Telecom. He is a highly sought after corporate trainer in the various technologies and has trained hundreds of corporate professionals in corporations like Symphony Services, IBM, Syntel, AOL India, Cognizant Technology Solutions, Collabonet, WebEx, Edgesoft. So in today's webinar, our expert Siva Prasad Vallaru will discuss about the basics of Java-based enterprise service bus and how we can exchange data by using Mule and ESB. He will also throw light on Cloud Hub along with the method of creating and deploying a Mule application on standalone and Cloud Hub runtime. He will also touch upon various technical aspects of Mule, including API-led connectivity, API design and management, features of the Anypoint platform, etc. In the end, he will give a brief about Runtime Fabric and Anypoint Private Cloud Edition. If you have any questions during the session, please type it in the chat box and they will be addressed by Siva after the presentation is over. Without further ado, let's start today's session. Now I would like to call Siva to start the session. Over to you, Siva.
Thank you, Satyakshi. Okay, this is Shiv Prasad. So good afternoon, everyone. So in this next 1.5 hours, I'll just brief about what I will be covering and what you can expect from this 1.5 hours. So this is the agenda. I hope you are seeing my screen. So this will be the overview about Anypoint platform. So I'll talk about all the capabilities of Anypoint platform. Actually, I'll start with a discussion of what is an ESB and how Mule acts as an ESB. We'll understand about orchestration. Then I'll introduce about Cloud Hub, and we'll also see how to deploy how to create a simple Mule application and deploy that Mule application to standalone runtime as well as Cloud Hub runtime. We also focus on API-led connectivity. What is this API-led connectivity? Actually, MuleSoft is promoting itself as an Anypoint platform, and especially it concentrates more on any API-led connectivity. So we'll understand what is this API-led connectivity. We'll also understand about what is API Designer, Anypoint Exchange, Public Portal, and also API Manager and various features of Anypoint platform. And then finally, I'll also give an introduction to what is this Anypoint Runtime Fabric and also Anypoint Private Cloud Edition. And then at the end, I will actually show you a deployment of one application to both standalone and also Cloud Hub runtime. Okay, so let us get started. I'll try to give an overview about, first of all, what is an ESB, what problems it solves. So I know some of you might be working on some integration platforms and you might be familiar with this ESB, but I will try to introduce the concepts of ESB from my own way. Okay. Okay. So let's talk about a practical scenario. I have a requirement. Let's assume that I have a third-party SOAP web service. Okay, this is a SOAP web service, and assume that I need to write my application to consume this SOAP web service. So basically, I want to integrate my application with a third-party SOAP web service. I want to do integration. whenever we are doing integration, we need to consider lot of patterns. Lot of integration patterns are there. But even before I go through that integration patterns, let me tell you simple things. Suppose if there is a third party SOAP web service, definitely the contract of SOAP web service is nothing but a WSDL file, right? So I am the client, my application is a client. I need to consume the SOAP web service. So if I'm writing a Java application or .NET or anything, what I need to do is I need to write my code by understanding the WSDL. So normally if I am a Java developer, what I do is by using tools like WSDL to Java, what I do is I'll create Java code by using the WSDL given to me. Then in my code, I will use the generated files and write my integration logic. Traditionally, we do like this. We write code to make a web service call, right? So now my application is a consumer to the web service. Now, simply, can I say that there is loose coupling between these two applications? Is it there? If my application is consuming SOAP web service, can I say that these two applications are loosely coupled? Yes. Okay. So how? Normally, as long as the contract is same, that means as long as the WSDL is same, the implementation can change. Do you agree? Yes. So if the implementation changes, as long as a contract does not change, my code will not be affected, right? So my code is loosely coupled with this SOAP web service. That's fine. Now, what about logical coupling? Okay, so whenever we are doing integration, we need to understand about various types of coupling. So now if I ask you, what about logical coupling? If my Java application is using its code to consume SOAP web service, is there logical coupling between these two applications? What do I mean by logical coupling? Logical coupling means this code need not know what type of service is the other one, and the other service need not know who is a client. That means service provider need not know who is a client, and client need not know who is the service provider. If you are doing such an integration, then we can say that these two apps are logically coupled, right? So using traditional WSDL to Java, if I'm generating code and SOAP web service. So what my Java code should do actually, my Java code should create a SOAP envelope and then send the SOAP envelope as part of HTTP request. Mostly we will use SOAP over HTTP. So my code should know that it is talking to a SOAP web service and not a REST service, right? So there is no logical coupling. My code should know who is the other side. Is it a SOAP web service or REST web service? What is the endpoint URL? Everything my code should know. So there is no logical coupling. Is that? So moreover, my code has to create a SOAP envelope. It should know, my code should know that it is consuming a SOAP web service, right? So how to make it logically coupled? Now, if this is again my application and this is my code, right? So now instead of me creating a SOAP message, I'll create some proprietary message in my own format. Okay, So my code will not create SOAP message. This is SOAP web service which I want to consume. Okay. So in my code, instead of creating a SOAP message, I will create my own message in my own format. Normally, whenever I say a message will have headers and payload, the body, right? Every message will have a header and a payload. So my code, what it will do is it will create my own message. If there is one component which I don't write, if there is a ready-made component which is available, right? Let's say this component, I'll name it as SOAP adapter. So my code, what it will do is whenever it creates such a message, it will hand over the message to SOAP adapter. This is not my own code, it is a ready-made component, let's assume. Now in this SOAP adapter, I'll configure it. I'll not write code, I'll configure it and tell about this SOAP web service. Okay. Now what this SOAP adapter will do, it will convert my proprietary message to SOAP message and send it to SOAP web service. Now can I say that my code does not know whether it is consuming a SOAP web service or not, right? So what is the advantage actually? If tomorrow, if this but do you think my code needs to change? No. Instead of SOAP adapter, what I might do is I'll configure it with a REST adapter. Is that okay? So audio issue. I'm getting a message saying that there is some audio issue. Can someone confirm if you are clearly hearing me? Satyakshi, I think you are there. You can confirm if you are hearing me properly. Is there any problem with my audio? Ashish or anyone can tell me. Just give me a message. Oh, it's breaking. Oh, is it for most of you? It is breaking. So just give me a moment. Let me check if I don't think a problem my side. My internet also is good. Maybe I guess problem with some of you. Audio is going off. It's on and off. Oh, getting a lot of messages. Only one is saying audio is fine. Okay, so I'm not sure. Actually, my audio is good. I'll continue for some time, and if the problem persists, let me check again. For some of you, it is saying you're saying good. Voice is breaking. Okay, just give me a moment.
Siva, are you able to hear me? Siva, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, okay.
Uh, can you hear me now?
We can hear you, but your voice is echoing a lot.
Okay, now you can hear me, right?
Yeah, now it's fine. Yes.
Okay, so I'll continue now.
Yeah, sure, you can. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was just talking about the adapter. So what is the advantage here? If I'm having an adapter, if tomorrow we want to migrate from SOAP to REST, we will not change our code. We'll just change the adapter, right? Yes. So can I say that my code and this application are logically coupled now? Yes. My code need not know that whether it is talking to a SOAP web service or a REST web service. Only the adapter has to be configured, right? Okay. So now, normally whenever we are doing integration, there are some more things also. Let's assume again that this is my application and here is my code. Now assume that I want to consume a REST web service. Now I have data in XML format in my code is getting data in XML format, but this REST application requires data in JSON format. So what can happen? So here is a REST adapter. Now my code will create a message with some headers and payload, whatever data. Then the data, the payload is in XML format. So what we need is sometimes we need a component called as a transformer, which will actually take the message from my code, transform this XML to JSON, and then give it to the adapter. Adapter will use it to make the REST API calls, right? Okay. So sometimes we need a transformer. Okay. So whenever my code has some data, it will send it to transformer. But again, one more requirement is sometimes I might need to filter the data. I don't want to send all the data to the REST API. I need to filter. So sometimes I might need a component like a filter. So my code will give the data to filter where I'll have some filtering logic. If everything is fine, the filter will give the data to transformer. If the data is not satisfying the condition, the filter will throw an exception or just ignore the data. So if everything is fine, the filtered data will be given to transformer. Transformer will give it to REST API and it will make a call. So what I mean to say is sometimes we need a filter. Okay, so slowly coming to the actual thing. So this is my code. My code will give to a filter where I have some filtering logic. It will give it to transformer where I have written some transformation logic. And then here I can have, maybe if some condition is satisfied, I want to invoke a REST API. If else, I may want to invoke a SOAP API. Or else, I may want to send the data to, say, Salesforce, like this. Right. So now, after transformer, conditionally, I want to route my message to either SOAP service or REST service or Salesforce or SAP application or whatever. So sometimes I need a router which will check some, and then either give the message to a REST adapter or a SOAP adapter or Salesforce adapter or SAP adapter, right? So sometimes we need a router to route the message based on some condition. So what I need is, I don't want to write logic or code for filtering, transforming, routing, and I don't want to write code for REST adapter, SOAP adapter, Salesforce. It will be good if there is some framework or a library which will provide me with all these ready-made components. So any such library which provides me with all such ready-made components, we call that framework or library as a bus framework or enterprise service bus framework or ESB. So actually, let's remove enterprise service. What is this bus? So normally in a bus, we travel from one location to other location and vice versa, right? Here, can I say that my message is traveling from one location to other location and coming back and forth through the set of filters, transformers, routers, adapters, and various other components, right? So any framework which allows me to create such bus-like infrastructure, we call such frameworks as bus frameworks. Okay, or we can call them as enterprise service bus, a bus at an enterprise level. Okay, so now we understood about what is an ESB. There are a lot of ESBs actually. Mule is one of the ESB. So now you understood what is Mule. Actually, initially when Mule was introduced long back, I know that Mule started somewhere around 2005. So when Mule started somewhere around 2005, 2006, they started with Mule as a framework, Mule as an ESB. So you understood that Mule is a ESB framework which provides ready-made components like filters, routers, transformers, and wide variety of adapters, right? So basically in a Mule application, what we do is we write something called as a flow, where my flow will take a request using any transport. Let's say my flow can be invoked using HTTP. So in my flow, I'll be using a HTTP listener. Again, this listener is provided a ready-made component from Mule. So in Mule, what we do is we create flows. Basically, flows are written using XML. You don't need to write code. And mostly it will be a drag and drop. So in Mule, we write XML. In that XML, we write flows. In a flow, let's assume that I want my application to listen on HTTP. So I'll be having HTTP listener, right? Now, let's assume that whenever any HTTP request comes, maybe I want to invoke service 1, which is a SOAP service. Maybe I want to invoke service 2, which may be a REST service. And then again, I want to invoke, say, Salesforce. And then again, I want to store the data in a database. So what I will be doing is, in the flow, I'll be using some components like transformers if required. And then I will use some adapter. Let's say this is SOAP adapter, it will talk to SOAP web service. And again, once I get the response, maybe I want to invoke REST service. I will use another component to invoke SOAP REST service, another component to invoke, say, Salesforce, another component to fire a query to database, like that, right? So in a flow, what I am doing, I am coordinating with multiple services. Service 1, which is SOAP service, REST service, Salesforce, SAP, or database. So in my flow, I am coordinating with multiple services and getting a desired work done, right? So that is nothing but orchestration. Yes. So basically in mule flows, what we do is we write orchestration logic. Orchestration is nothing but a process of coordinating with multiple services and getting the desired work done. So in one mule application, we might be having n number of flows written in multiple XML. Okay. So mule application is nothing but a combination of some XML files where we configure multiple flows, multiple XMLs can be there, right? So we created a mule application like this, but now where it should run? It should run in some runtime, is it? So mule provides us with something called as a mule runtime. Mule runtime. So once we create mule applications, we need to deploy that mule applications inside mule runtime. Basically, this mule runtime is developed on top of Java. Okay, and whatever application you will be deploying, it will be running inside a Java runtime. Mule runtime is developed on top of Java only. Basically, your mule application will be a .jar file. What this .jar file will contain? It will contain XMLs. So behind the scenes, whenever you write an XML, it will be converted to some Java code, and then that Java code will run inside a mule runtime. Okay, so we deploy our applications on mule runtime. Now, once I said, you can actually have your mule runtimes running in your own data center on your own machines. That we call it as standalone mule runtime. Or for deployment, MuleSoft provides its own cloud called as Cloud Hub. I hope all of you might be knowing that there are different types of clouds. Infrastructure as a service. Example is AWS, Google Cloud Platform, etc. They are mostly infrastructure as service providers. And another type of clouds are platform as a service, software as a service, etc. Right? So our Cloud Hub is of type platform as a service. It provides a ready-made platform as a service, and especially it is a platform as a service for deploying which kind of applications, for deploying integration application. So Cloud Hub is an iPaaS, integration platform as a service. So what you could do is, once you create your application is nothing but a jar file. Let's say your application is a myapp.jar. So I'll show you how to deploy this jar file on Cloud Hub. Once we deploy our application on Cloud Hub, what will happen is a separate virtual machine is provisioned, which will contain a mule runtime, and inside this mule runtime your jar will be running, right? So actually Cloud Hub is on top of AWS infrastructure. AWS is providing infrastructure, and on top of AWS infrastructure Cloud Hub is installed, right? So whenever you deploy your application, actually your application gets deployed on Cloud Hub. 1 minute, it closed. Yep. So whenever your application is deployed on Cloud Hub, actually it is creating a VM on AWS internally, and it is deploying. You can automatically scale your applications on Cloud Hub. So what you can do is, when deploying, you can say I want 3 instances of my app. So what will happen? 3 VMs will be automatically provisioned, and they all will be deployed on Cloud Hub, right? Of course, Cloud Hub will configure a load balancer also, so that whenever request is coming to your applications, it will come to load balancer, and load balancer will do the load balancing across the instances, right? So MuleSoft is providing you a platform as a service for deployment. Of course, when I say platform as a service, it supports auto scaling as well. You can scale your applications as you want. Right. Now, once you understand about Cloud Hub, let me tell you about one more problem here. Hope all of you might be aware of microservices. Microservice architecture, you might have either worked or maybe heard about it, right? What is actually a microservice? If I tell about a microservice, you need to understand about a monolithic application. Monolith. What is a monolithic application? One single application which contains all the functionalities. We can say that it is a microservice based application. Sorry, it is a monolithic application. One single application containing all the services. It is a monolith. It is not good to develop a single monolithic service. So the best idea is to decompose a bigger application into small individual microservices, which can be individually deployable, individually scalable, individually manageable, right? So that is what microservice, right? We build a big application, small services. So here also, in your organization, you might be having a lot of integrations. Instead of deploying all of your integrations as a single monolithic application, it is always advisable to decompose your application to small individual applications and expose them as an API, right? So that it can be reused, right? So what, in your organization, if you're having many integrations, you develop a separate application for each scenario. Then how can one microservice talk to another microservice if required? Definitely this service should expose an API, right? So that another services can talk to this service. So basically, when you are deploying your application a set of microservices, each service should be exposing an API. Okay. First point which may come to your mind is, how do we describe our API? See, if it is a soap, we know that there is a standard called as WSDL for describing. But what about for REST applications? How to describe your REST APIs? There are multiple standards, right? Open API specification is one, and Mule follows something called as RAML, RESTful API modeling language. So mostly MuleSoft encourages you to expose them using REST, because REST is the most popular way of exposing services and consuming services nowadays. So MuleSoft supports describing your REST APIs using RAML, RESTful API modeling language. Right. So now you might ask me, hey, how do I design my RAML? So MuleSoft gives us something called as API Designer. So by using API Designer, it's a tool which is available on cloud. You'll be able to design your APIs on any point platform using API Designer. Okay, just a minute. So using API Designer, we'll design our APIs. API Designer is provided by MuleSoft. Then once we are ready with API, we want to get feedback from our stakeholders in our organization, right? Whether the design of the API is good or not, is it? We don't want to implement. Before even going for implementation, we want to take feedback from stakeholders. So API Designer also comes up with something called as a mocking service, where you can actually create a mocked implementation for your API. Then once you design your API, what you can do, you can give your API to your stakeholders and ask them to try the API. So whenever somebody tries the API, they will actually be hitting the mocked service and they'll be getting some responses. So that in that way, you can get feedback from your stakeholders. Wait. Sorry, it is getting closed soon. Okay, let me open it. Okay. So let's assume that you have designed your API, you have mocked it, everything is fine. Now you want a place where you can publish your API so that they'll be visible to the users in your organization. So MuleSoft provides one more thing called as an API exchange or any point exchange, where you publish your APIs and assets. So you can publish your APIs to any point exchange so that other users in your organization can see your APIs in your exchange. They will be able to understand how to use your APIs and may use your APIs to consume them. Then this API exchange, any point exchange, is visible only to users within your organization. Okay. Then how to make your APIs visible to users outside of your organization? So in that case, MuleSoft also provides you something called as a public portal. where you can publish your public APIs to public portal, and any third-party clients will be able to see your APIs published on your public portal. Okay, till now we have not made an implementation, right? So what we can do is next, as the next level, we can implement the APIs as mule applications. Okay, and then once the implementation is done, we deploy the applications onto mule runtimes. Mule runtime, either mule standalone runtime or on Cloud Hub, right? So MuleSoft provides the mule runtimes. And how do you actually develop the mule applications or mule flows? So MuleSoft provides you something called as Anypoint Studio, which is an Eclipse based tool using which you can develop mule applications. So you can see on my screen, this is a Anypoint Studio. Let you how to develop your mule applications. Okay. So by using Anypoint Studio, we develop our applications and deploy to either standalone runtime on your premise or on cloud. Okay, then what is the next thing? We don't want our APIs to be consumed by everyone. We want to secure them, right? But I don't want to write security code. Why should I write? Because it's an enterprise level requirement. I don't want to write code. So what I want to do is I just want to configure, hey, my application or my API requires these type of security. So I just want to configure some security policies, and those policies should be automatically applied, right? So for that purpose, again, MuleSoft has one more thing called as an API manager. API manager is again provided by MuleSoft. So what we do is we have our API published in Anypoint Exchange, right? We point our API manager to that API in Anypoint Exchange and ask it to manage. So now my API manager knows about the REST API, right? Then what the API manager will do is it will generate a proxy for the API. The API is in the Anypoint Exchange, right? API manager will automatically generate a proxy. Then what we do is, let's assume that this is one more mule runtime. Another runtime. See here in this mule runtime, we have deployed our app, or maybe we have deployed our app on Cloud Hub. But this is another mule runtime where we deploy a proxy. Okay. What is the use of the proxy? Actually, we will never expose the original implementation URL to our clients. We'll expose only the proxy URL. So if any client is making a request, the request will first come to the proxy running here. It will try to check some policies. If everything is fine, it will actually hit the original implementation either here or here. If something is wrong, it can give an error message. The proxy itself will give an error message. Okay. Now, what we do is this API manager has a web UI. So through the web UI of API manager, we configure some policies. Like I will configure something like an OAuth policy, and I'll give all the details related for OAuth. That's all. What will happen in this mule runtime? There will be an agent which will talk to the API manager at regular intervals, and if there is any policy configured, it will download that information related to the policy and it will actually implement it. So now OAuth policy is automatically downloaded, policy related data is downloaded and it will be actually applied. So now whenever a client makes a request to proxy, first the OAuth policy will check whether the client is having credentials or token, etc. If everything is fine, then it will hit the original implementation and give the response. Otherwise, the proxy itself will give the response, error response. So in that way, there are a lot of policies like rate limiting policy, etc., security policies, etc., which we can just configure on the web UI and they will get applied automatically here in the runtime, right? So till now I said I'll be deploying proxy on a separate machine and the original implementation on a separate machine. This machine where we deploy proxies, normally we call them as gateways, because nobody will be able to hit my actual runtime, my actual app running in the runtime. They have to go through this gateway only. So this runtime we call it as a gateway, right? Earlier versions of Mule, we used to have a separate gateway runtime and Mule runtime, but now a single runtime can act as both Mule runtime as well as gateway runtime. So now what we can do is, let's say this is a Mule runtime. What we can do is we can deploy our app itself without a proxy. I just told an example of a proxy so that you'll understand the flow, but actually proxy is not required nowadays. We'll deploy the app in the runtime. Once we deploy the app in the runtime, in the app we'll give some API ID for which this is an implementation. See, this app will be an implementation of an API in the Anypoint Exchange, right? And it will be managed by API manager. So we will just give the API ID, whatever the API manager gives. So automatically the app will automatically discover itself in the API manager. And if there are any policies configured in API manager, they will get downloaded into the app here. And here itself, the policies will be automatically applied. So we don't need a proxy also. I just told you an example of a proxy which was used earlier days. But now the app itself will automatically get the policies applied. What all we have to do is during deployment, we just have to tell what is the API ID, which is actually for which this app is an implementation. That API ID will be generated by API manager, right? So basically MuleSoft is providing a lot of components like API designer, mocking service, Anypoint Exchange, public portal, API manager, cloud hub runtime, Mule runtime. And also there are two other runtimes we'll be discussing later called as Runtime Fabric. Runtime Fabric is again a runtime. I'll discuss about it. And Anypoint Private Cloud Edition also is a runtime. So basically Mule is providing all this together, right? So all this combinedly we call them as Anypoint platform. So basically we say that MuleSoft is providing a total platform which will help you from end to end, starting from API designing to deploying, managing, right? Managing, versioning. Versioning also is supported inside Anypoint Exchange, right? Scaling up, everything a single platform is providing, right? And MuleSoft encourages you to follow microservice based approach. So what it says is, instead of developing your all integrations as a single monolithic application, decompose your application into multiple APIs which can be reusable, scalable, manageable, right? So what MuleSoft proposes is something called as an API led connectivity. So let me talk about API led connectivity for some time, right? Okay, just a minute. Okay, so I'm back. Okay, so let us start discussion on API led connectivity. What MuleSoft proposes and what is this all about? Normally in any organization, you will be having your assets. Like suppose if you are having your customer related data in Salesforce, or maybe you are having your data in your databases, or maybe you are actually having a backend legacy mainframe systems or legacy whatever systems you have. You have your data in multiple systems. What MuleSoft suggests is to divide your APIs into 3 layers. The all APIs whatever you develop, you can divide into 3 layers, where we call the first layer as system API layer. System API. So here what you do is you develop your applications and expose APIs. These APIs should have logic to interact with the underlying systems. Okay. So you develop one API for each system. You develop, sorry, I just have drawn wrongly. One API for interacting with one system. So each system has, for each system, you might be exposing one API. Then the second layer of APIs, we call it as process API, where you will have the business logic. This is process API. So here you can write APIs which interacts internally with system APIs to get the data from the system, and here you can have some orchestration logic, actual business logic or orchestration logic for a particular use case you write in your process API. So you might be having a lot of process APIs for each use case or for each microservice, right? So now this system APIs will be reused by multiple process APIs. So here we are getting reusability. And since each API is separate, each API can be individually scalable. These also can be individually scalable as per our requirements. Then suppose if you want to expose your APIs so that some consumers will consume, right? Basically, when you are exposing your actual business logic APIs for each client, maybe each client they want data in a same data, maybe in a different format. So you want to support multiple clients and you want to give a different experience to the client. So every client may have their own requirement saying that I want the data to be in a particular format. So what you can do is optionally you develop one more set of APIs on top of process APIs. We call them as experience APIs. So one experience API may be for a particular client, so that this experience API internally interacts with the process APIs, whatever is required, and give the data to the client in their own required format. Okay. So experience APIs are actually optional. Maybe if you are exposing the same set of data to multiple clients, you might need an experience API. Otherwise, process API and system APIs should be fine. So MuleSoft, what it says is whenever you're writing your integration based application, split your logic, integration logic into multiple reusable APIs like this and deploy them in any of the runtimes like standalone runtime or cloud hub runtime or runtime fabric or anywhere. Okay, so that is about Anypoint platform, and that is about API led connectivity, right? So I just have covered briefly about all this. Now before I go ahead, what I want to do is I want to show you how to simply develop one Mule application using Anypoint Studio. Okay, one simple application. Say there's Anypoint Studio, whatever you are seeing right now. It is an IDE which is Eclipse based. So MuleSoft has just added some plugins. So what we have to do is we have to create a Mule project. So file, new Mule project. One application is one Mule project. So this Anypoint Studio, it is just a zip file which can be downloaded from MuleSoft website, and I just extracted it and opened it. That's all. No installation. So I'll just give project name. I'm creating a new project. I'll say first app, and I told that applications can be running or deployed inside Mule runtime. So by default, this Anypoint Studio comes up with an embedded Mule runtime. And here the version is 4.3.EE Enterprise Edition. Okay, this is the latest version. So I'm saying, okay, this is my app name and I want to deploy it on this runtime. And I'll just say finish. So this will create a Mule application in Anypoint Studio. Okay, I'll quickly show you. Let it create. Just wait, it is not responding. A minute. Yeah, I think it is just creating it still. Just wait. Yes, here you can see that a Mule application is created. On the left side, you can see there is a directory structure for the Mule application. And as I told you, Mule application is nothing but an XML. This is XML. And whatever you are seeing is a design view of the XML. See here, there are tabs in this XML. If I click on this configuration XML tag, this is the actual XML view of the file. The root tag is Mule, right? So right now this XML is empty. Now in this XML, I told you that I can create a flow, right? So what I want is I want to create a simple flow right now. What I want is I want a simple flow where once I run it, it will take HTTP requests. So I need a component here called as HTTP listener component. And once HTTP request comes, what I want is simply, I want a component, database component, which will fire a query on my database, get the data, and then give it. Okay, simple. I just wanted to show you this one. Now I have this XML. I'll go into design view by clicking on this tab here, message flow tab. Okay, now actually Mule application is modularized. So here you can see on the right side there's a Mule palette. By default, whenever we create any application, there are two modules already added. We call them as HTTP module and sockets module. They are default modules. They are automatically added to my application. You can see HTTP library is added here, and sockets library also added here in this project. Suppose if I want a database module, so I want to interact with database, what I have to do? I have to click on add module. This database, I'll drag and drop here. So what will happen? Database module got added, and here you can see that got added to the project. Basically, I told that Mule is a Java application, right? So whenever I add a module, basically it's nothing but it is adding jars, Java jars, and Mule internally uses Maven. So this is the pom.xml for Maven, where it contains all the dependencies for the projects. So here you can see there is a dependency of HTTP connector module, sockets module, and now since I dragged a database module, automatically the database also is added as a plug into my application, right? Okay, coming back. Now I will just select HTTP module, and what I want is a HTTP listener. I'll drag and drop HTTP listener here. See very beautifully the listener it is showing here. Now I will save it, and if I show you the XML, you can see that a flow will be created with a HTTP listener XML tag. Let us see. Yeah, see, I'll click on this configuration XML tab again. You can see now that there is a flow tag written automatically. The name of the flow, they just gave some name automatically based on XML name. And here is some tag called as HTTP listener. And of course, still I'm getting an error. Okay, so I'll go to this graphical view. I need to configure it further. So once I say HTTP listener, I need to tell how can other applications connect to my listener. So actually for this listener, we need to configure something called as HTTP connector and tell what is the IP port at which it should listen on. So what I'll do is I'll click on plus. It will configure HTTP listener connector. Here I need to tell whether I want to use HTTP or HTTPS. Right now I want to go with HTTP, and I want to go with localhost. So 0.0.0.0 means localhost, and at what port? 8081, let it be. Okay. So that means I configured a HTTP listener so that it will listen on 8081 port. And what is the path? I'll just say /hello simply. Right? So to invoke this flow right now, we have to give a request to localhost 8081, the port, / I gave the URI here as hello. I'll double click again here, just wait, it is stuck. Yeah, here I gave the path as /hello. Okay. Now what I want to do is, as of now, I'll just drag and drop a transformer called as set payload. So basically, suppose if I give HTTP request, what will happen? HTTP request will contain headers and payload also, right? Suppose if somebody is making a HTTP GET request, will there be payload? No, payload will be empty. But headers will be there, like request parameters, request headers, this all will be here, right? So basically, whenever the listener gets any HTTP request, what it will do is it will create a object called as mule message object, which has headers, or we call as attributes actually, attributes and payload. So what HTTP listener is creating a mule message. This data structure we call it as mule message, and wrap this inside another object called as mule event, which internally has mule message, and also some other thing called as vars variables. We'll not discuss about this right now. So I just wanted you to understand that whenever a HTTP request comes to listener, it will get a HTTP headers as well as body. It will map the headers to attribute and payload to payload. And it will create a mule message object, wrap the mule message object inside a mule event, and give it to the next component. Right? So set payload, what I want to do is I want to set the payload of the mule message to hello. This is just a transformer which is transforming the payload. Hello world, let's say. Okay. So if I give a GET request to this flow, body for the GET request will be empty, right? So what will be the payload for the mule message here? When it comes to set payload, it will be empty. So now we're transforming it to hello world, right? And that's all right now. I'll add database next. I want to deploy it. Very simple. I'll just right click and say run project. So if I run it on the studio, it will automatically start a mule runtime embedded inside the studio, and it'll start running. So in the meantime, I just open my Postman so that I can give a GET request. Yep. So I'm back. Let us continue. So here, this is my Postman. Now I guess the application, see here it is deployed. You can see the application got deployed in standalone mule runtime inside the studio itself, right? So the first app, you can see that the status is deployed. Now I can hit my flow. How? What is the path? I gave /hello, is it? Localhost 8081/hello. Let's give a request, a GET request. I'll give localhost 8081/hello. I'll give a request. Let's see, will I get whatever I have set in the set payload, hello world? Yes, I got the response, whatever I have set. A very simple flow. You can see that this is the corresponding XML, right? HTTP listener tag is there, set payload is there. We will never write these XMLs also automatically. We just drag and drop, automatically that will get created. Okay, now I don't want set payload. I'll delete it. Okay, let me stop the project first. It will stop. Okay, now I'll delete it. Right click, delete. Now I want to fire a select query on my database. See, I have MySQL database with name Mule Training DB. I have a table called as product simply to demonstrate. There is only one product right now here. Okay, I want to fire a query to retrieve this product. So what I need to do is I need to go to the mule parrot on the right side, select database module. Here there is a component for selecting. I'll just drag and drop this selector here, select here, right? So here I'll configure a connector. So here I need to tell to this database connector, how to talk to database, right? So I need to configure a connector, database connector. I'll click on plus. So I know that I'm using MySQL. Here there is a MySQL connection. Here I'll give the host name. Basically, first I need to talk about what is the JDBC version or driver. So I'll configure this driver. I'm using MySQL. So I'll just type. Mine is MySQL 8 version. I'll type MySQL colon MySQL. It will search Maven dependency. And now I know that I'm using MySQL 8. I'll select this 8 and finish. So I added driver. It will be automatically added as a dependency in the POM. Now here in the local, I'll give local host because my database is running here. Port is 3306 default port, and my username and password I'll give here root and root. Don't worry, again in MuleSoft there's a way to encrypt these passwords as well, but again I'm not going into that detail. We can encrypt the passwords and we can externalize the passwords to some other files. All that we can do, but right now I'm hard coding. And what is the database name? My database name is Mule Training DB. So I'll give here Mule Training DB, and if I click on test connection, it'll check if the database is reachable, working or not. Let's see. It's taking longer time. Let's see. It should succeed. It should give that test result is successful. Yep. You can see test connection is successful. Okay, fine. I'll just say okay. Then here, what is a query? I'll just write a simple query. Select star from table name is product. Again, we can write a where clause and we can pass the conditions dynamically as well. I'm not going to all those right now. I'm selecting star from product. Then I'll be getting data, but I want to convert this data to JSON format. So again, MuleSoft has various ways to do transformation. There is a component called as transform message, which internally uses a language called as DataWeave transformation language. It's a very simple language. Now, once I dragged and dropped, I need to write some DataWeave transformation expression. Basically here in DataWeave, we have to tell what is the output data type you want. I want output to be application/JSON. And right now, I don't want to write a complex DataWeave expression. I just simply say payload, whatever payload is coming from database has to be converted to JSON. That's all. This transformer will convert the data coming from database into a JSON. Okay, that's all. Now if I run, now the same application gets deployed. I'll get the data from the database. Let us see. Okay, the first app is still getting deployed. Yep, it got deployed. Now if I just give a request to same URL, I should get the data from the database in JSON format. See here, I got the data from database, list of products actually in JSON format, a simple application, right? Now quickly I will show you, this application is deployed in standalone runtime running inside Anypoint Studio. But how to deploy it in separate server, right? Very simple. See, this is the standalone server. You can download this zip file from the MuleSoft website. I have downloaded this standalone version 4.3. I have extracted it. If you want to start standalone server on your machine, you just have to go to bin, and there's a file called as mule.bat. That's all. You just have to start it. This will start a standalone Mule runtime. So right now it is a trial one which I am using. By default, it will come with a default trial for 30 days. The Mule is up and kicking. So there are no applications deployed right now. So suppose if I want my application to be deployed, what I can do, I can right click on my application and click on export. I want to export my Mule application. Under Mule, here there's an option, Anypoint Studio project to Mule deployable archive. Next, and I'll take all the defaults, and I want it to be on desktop, so I'll select this desktop. So it will be stored on desktop with name first app.jar. Finish. So it will do a build, and it will generate a jar file on desktop. Done. So I'll just go to my desktop. This is my jar, first app.jar. I'll copy this, and if I want to deploy it, just let me check here. Is it closed in Studio? Yes. Now if I want to deploy it, what I have to do is simply go to apps folder and paste the jar file. That's all. You can see the jar file got extracted and it is getting deployed here, right? You can see that it is initializing, and finally you'll get a message that it is deployed, right? So it's still getting deployed. That's all. This is a way to deploy it, right? And suppose if you want to deploy it on Cloud Hub, quickly I'll show you. We have less time now. If you want to go to Cloud Hub, what you can do is you can go to anypoint.mulesoft.com, and you can actually sign up for a trial account. Okay, so I'll click on sign up. It is very simple sign up process. You just need to give something. It will not even verify. I'm just giving some number. I'll give the username is important, Siva OCT 2020. Okay. So my username is Siva OCT 2020. I'm just signing up. So that's all. I just signed up quickly. I logged into Anypoint platform trial account. Now I want to deploy, right? From the left menu, I'll go to Runtime Manager. And for the first time, whenever I'm going to, it'll ask me to select environment. By default, there will be two environments, sandbox and design. I'll select design. Okay, that's all simply now. If you want to deploy an application, click on deploy application. Select the file. The file name, it is on desktop. This is the first app.jar. Then here you can select what version of Mule runtime you want to get it deployed. What is the VM size? I told that to be deployed on a VM, right? What is the size of the VM? How many such workers? Worker means number of instances. And in trial account, you can deploy to only one worker. And what is the deployment target? Cloud Hub. Give a name. My app 2020. This name should be unique. Okay. Name of the application should be unique. And if you just click on deploy, that's all it will get deployed onto Cloud Hub. And once it gets deployed, it will show you the URL to hit your application. That is so simple to deploy your application on Cloud Hub. And actually, there are a lot of things, right? This Cloud Hub is managed by MuleSoft, right? This Cloud Hub is managed by MuleSoft. So your applications are getting deployed into MuleSoft managed runtime on top of AWS. But suppose if your applications are sensitive, you don't want to put it on public cloud, etc. What you can do is you can install on your data center. On your data center itself, you can install something called as Anypoint Runtime Fabric. This Anypoint Runtime Fabric is internally using Kubernetes and Docker. So you have to install your runtime fabric on your own data center, where it will be internally using Kubernetes and Docker. Okay. Now what we do is through runtime manager on cloud, whatever I showed you, right? Runtime manager. Here, this is runtime manager, is it? Through runtime manager on cloud, just like how I deploy to cloud, I will be able to deploy it to runtime fabric inside your data center. There are some settings to be done on runtime manager that we have to do. Installation all we have to do. So the applications will be running in your own data center and not on Cloud Hub. So if you want your applications to run inside your own data center, or maybe in your own AWS account, not in MuleSoft managed AWS account, you can use runtime fabric. But here, still the management UI, the runtime manager, is all our applications managed by MuleSoft. Still the management metadata, metrics, everything will be sent to MuleSoft. If you don't want this runtime manager also on cloud, you want both the management application as well as runtimes to be on your premise, then your option is private cloud edition. Anypoint private cloud edition. So if you install Anypoint private cloud edition in your data center, the management applications, whatever you are seeing on the UI, these all will be actually in your running in your own data center only, and your applications will be running inside containers managed by Kubernetes only, again here also. So that's a quick high level overview about runtime fabric and Anypoint platform private cloud edition. So that's about the agenda quickly, maybe within a limited period of time. I hope I'm able to give an overview about Anypoint platform. I think we have 5 more minutes. I will just request for any questions. If you have any questions, you can actually write out these questions. I can see it. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions. If you have any questions, you can write your questions there. I'll be able to see the questions and I'll answer your questions. Any questions? Just type your questions in the chat window. I'll be able to see your questions and I'll try to answer your questions. There's a quick overview. I hope you got a quick overview. about what is this Anypoint platform and what this Mule does. There are a lot of things to be understood before you go to work. Okay, so I'm waiting for your questions. How to make Mule service URL to public? Okay, very good. So suppose Raj Sundar, suppose if you are deploying your application to Cloud Hub. See here I have deployed to Cloud Hub, right? Once I have deployed to Cloud Hub, let me just show you. If I go back and if I click on my application, see this is the URL which Cloud Hub gives. By using this URL, this is a public URL. Actually, it is pointing to the load balancer which is pre-built into Cloud Hub. Again, of course, you can configure your own VPCs on Cloud Hub. You can configure your own load balancers on Cloud Hub. And once you're configuring the load balancer, you can actually give your own domain name itself. Right? All those options are available. It can be highly customizable. Hope that is answered. Okay. Any other queries from your side? Yes, disaster recovery. Actually, that's what here you will be able to configure VPCs, right? Whenever you are configuring VPCs by default on Cloud Hub, as I told you, it will be on top of AWS, right? So whenever you're configuring your VPC, your one VPC will be configured in one region, AWS region. You can select what region this VPC should belong to, and one region can have multiple zones. So whatever VPC you will be configuring will be spanning across multiple zones. So that will take care of high availability. So whenever, if you want your applications to be highly available, whenever you are deploying your application, you should have more than one worker. The workers will be automatically distributed across the zones belonging to this VPC, and we'll achieve high availability. Then if that is actually one VPC is in one region, right? So and one region can have multiple zones again, so that will take care of high availability most probably. Again, if you want again disaster recovery, you should actually spin up one more VPC in another region, and you have to take care of your switching of the traffic whenever one region is down. Yes. Okay. Any other question from any of you? Anyone is typing a question? If no, then I hope this webinar gave you a good overview. We can wind off if there are no questions. Thanks all of you. Then in that case, thanks for your time. Bye.